In the thick of World War II, the English countryside was a mosaic of emerald fields and drizzly skies, occasionally punctuated by the hum of aircraft and the distant thud of artillery. At an isolated English airbase, Lieutenant Jack Thompson, a young B-17 pilot, had just finished another grueling mission over occupied Europe. His bomber, nicknamed the Iron Lady, had endured heavy flak and enemy fighters, leaving the crew physically and emotionally exhausted. Jack, with his dark hair tousled from the day's events, stepped out of his aircraft, his uniform caked with grime. He ran a hand through his hair, feeling the familiar mix of relief and fatigue. As he walked toward the base's mess hall, he spotted a figure in a Red Cross uniform, a nurse who had been tirelessly tending to wounded soldiers and airmen. Emma Whitfield had been stationed at the airbase for several months, working tirelessly as a Red Cross nurse. With her auburn hair tied back in a neat bun and her green eyes reflecting both kindness and resilience, she had quickly become a familiar face to the pilots and crew. That day, she was helping to manage the chaos following another grueling raid, her calm presence providing a much-needed anchor amidst the storm of activity. Jack had noticed her before, but this was the first time their paths had truly crossed. As he approached, Emma's gaze met his, and he could see a glimmer of something in her eyes, perhaps a shared weariness or a spark of curiosity. He gave her a tired but genuine smile. "Evening, Lieutenant," Emma said, her voice soft but strong. "Rough day?" "You could say that," Jack replied, rubbing his eyes. "Seems like we just can't catch a break." Emma nodded sympathetically. "Why don't you come over here? I've got some hot tea and a bit of pie. It's not much, but it might help take the edge off." Jack hesitated for a moment before nodding appreciatively. "That sounds wonderful. Thank you." They moved to a quieter corner of the base, where Emma had set up a small makeshift table. As she poured tea and handed Jack a slice of pie, their conversation flowed naturally. Emma asked about the mission, and Jack spoke candidly about the trials of flying through enemy fire. As they talked, the tension of the day seemed to melt away, replaced by a growing connection between them. Over the next few weeks, Jack and Emma's paths continued to intersect. Emma's kindness and unflagging spirit began to draw Jack in. Despite the grim backdrop of war, their interactions were a refuge, a place where they could momentarily forget their troubles and simply enjoy each other's company. Their conversations became more frequent, their smiles more frequent, and a mutual attraction began to bloom. One evening, as Jack prepared for another mission, Emma caught him just before he climbed into the Iron Lady. Her face was serious, but filled with concern. "Jack," she said softly, "be careful out there. I know it's a dangerous job, but I don't want to lose you." Jack looked at her, his heart pounding. He had grown to care deeply for Emma, and her words hit him harder than he expected. "I'll be as careful as I can," he promised, his voice earnest. "But if anything happens, I want you to know that you mean a lot to me." Emma's eyes softened. "I feel the same way, Jack. Just promise me you'll come back." "I promise," Jack said, taking her hand gently before reluctantly pulling away and heading to his aircraft. The next mission was one of the toughest Jack had faced. The sky was a roiling expanse of gray, and enemy fighters swarmed around them like angry hornets. Through the chaos, Jack's thoughts kept drifting back to Emma and the promise he had made. The crew of the Iron Lady returned to base, battered but intact. Jack was greeted with a mixture of relief and celebration, but his heart was heavy. He had seen too many of his comrades fall, and each return felt more bittersweet than the last. Emma found him in the mess hall that evening, her face a mask of concern. "How was it?" "Rough," Jack admitted. "But we made it back." Emma reached out and touched his arm gently. "I'm glad you're safe. You've got to take care of yourself." Jack looked at her, a mix of gratitude and longing in his eyes. "Emma, I need you to know something. Every time I fly, every time I face danger, I think about you. You give me strength." Emma's heart fluttered. "And you give me hope, Jack. I look forward to seeing you every day. It makes everything feel a bit more bearable." Their moments together became a cherished escape from the harsh realities of war. They spent time in quiet conversation, shared laughter, and sometimes just sat together in silence, finding comfort in each other's presence. As the war dragged on, the danger grew, and the missions became more perilous. Jack's letters to Emma were filled with reassurances and stories of their time together, but each letter also bore the weight of his uncertainty about the future. One day, as Jack prepared for what he feared might be his final mission, he and Emma shared a heartfelt farewell. Emma clutched a small locket that Jack had given her, which contained a tiny photograph of himself. "Promise me you'll come back," Emma said, her voice trembling. "I promise," Jack said, his voice filled with emotion. "No matter what happens, I'll find a way back to you." The mission was grueling, and the skies were filled with enemy fighters and flak. Jack's thoughts remained fixed on Emma, her face a beacon of hope amidst the turmoil. Despite the challenges, the crew managed to complete their mission and return to base. When Jack finally set foot on the airbase again, Emma was there to greet him. Their reunion was a mix of relief and joy, and Jack held Emma close, overwhelmed by the depth of his feelings. Weeks later, the war finally came to an end, and Jack and Emma's future was no longer clouded by the uncertainty of conflict. They continued their relationship, and Jack's promise to Emma became a reality. They looked forward to a life beyond the war, building a future together filled with hope and love. Their story became one of enduring love and testament to the strength and resilience found in the most unexpected places. Jack and Emma's romance, forged in the crucible of war, blossomed into a lifelong commitment, and their promise to each other became the foundation of their shared dreams.